Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. We're making Monday a fun day because this is the day that we get together and we talk movies, because this is the podcast where we're trying to answer the unanswerable question as we try to define every state in these United States by just one movie. Of course, I'm not doing it by myself. My name is Ollie Petchku. I love movies. I used to host ePower.max in Asia, and I have two amazing co-hosts that love movies just as much, if not more than me. Let's welcome them back before we get started. Ryan Sander, buddy, how you doing? Welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's so great to be here. And up until recently, I didn't know this state even existed.
This is what the podcast is doing. Not only is it teaching us movies, but it's also teaching us geography and teaching us about, apparently, the state called New Jersey. I didn't even know there was an old one. But also, Will, he's currently sitting in his own video store right there. What movies are we picking today, Will? Welcome back to the show.
Actually, this is going to be my announcement. I'm getting out of the movie renting business, selling this place, opening up my own water park with rides I designed myself, my buddies. So I'm a changed man now. Movies are dumb.
But today is actually a very special day because, as you've heard, we are heading to the state of New Jersey. But we have with ourselves a very special guest, actually, a former co-host of mine from Right This Minute and a man from New Jersey. Honestly, we've been missing you. Welcome him back. Let's back to the show. Nick Calderone is here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God, yes.
Come on, let's hear it.
I didn't even know people could be from New Jersey. That's amazing.
You can be from New Jersey. You can go back to New Jersey. You can make great movies in New Jersey and about New Jersey. So
that is true.
Honestly, Nick, considering like I do a movie podcast now, Nick and I, if no one else does know this, Nick and I worked on a television show for 8 years. And one thing I learned about Nick in those 8 years is, one, he doesn't really like movies. Two, when he does watch a movie, he forgets he's watching a movie. And he's had to watch 3 movies this week. So genuinely, I was so surprised when Nick was like, yeah, I'll come on the show. I'm like, are you sure?
I think he stated the only way he would ever watch and or listen to this podcast was if we had him on. This is probably going to be his first and last episode listening to this podcast.
It's true. It's true. I only want to be entertained by it if I'm being entertained on it. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Nick, considering all that, you did actually do a very good job of picking movies for us to try and analyze, try and figure out, because they are 3 very, very, very New Jersey movies. And honestly, after watching them, I do understand you a little bit more. That like, you know, you're not just an asshole. Yeah. Everyone from Jersey is.
These 3 movies are like all 3 of your personalities, kind of.
It's bred into me. It really. And I do have to, I guess, extend a thanks to you guys for allowing me to muck about with the format. I didn't know that I didn't pick all 3 movies.
Well, we were just impressed. We were impressed that you had movies ready to go, and they were good choices. That were like. What's the argument?
Yeah. So for the listener at home, I thought when I was invited to do this that I had to bring all the movies to the guys. So I picked all 3, and they were like, "Okay, great, we'll do that." So thank you.
Will was already going to pick one of them. I mean,
yeah. So you already beat me to one of the recommendations.
I don't know if anybody else. So we're recording this on Zoom, and I've got Nick is now frozen in just like the biggest smile.
Yeah.
But I'm just staring at Nick, just smiling. Nick, if you just stay like that the entire time, that's going to be great, actually.
That's fine. Yeah.
He's actually not frozen. That's just what he looks like.
that you've caught the happiest moment in the last 6 months.
Well, the movies that we got to the table, I'll go through them. Actually, they were quite good. Like I said, I was genuinely surprised. First of all, he went with Clerks. Clerks? Is it Clerks in America?
Clerks.
Not Clarks at all.
Okay,
totally,
all right. We're going
totally
with
different
Clerks. Kevin Smith's 1994 debut. It's a black and white movie. It's the introduction of Jay and Silent Bob. It kicks off the whole, Kevin Smith universe, to be quite honest. And it was made for like no money whatsoever, and then went on to, well, basically kick off his entire career. Stars Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Jason Mewes, Kevin Smith, and a whole host of other people from Jersey. I'm just checking. Is this?
Yeah.
Is have we lost Nick already? Is he giving up? on
Have
us?
you? Yeah, have you? Or am I still here in voice only?
We can see you in voice only. You're definitely having a video issue.
He's
Right now.
clunking. He's clunking.
What this is, how disappointing. I mean, come on already. Well, I can continue to work on it while you continue talking because I certainly don't want to derail this podcast.
This podcast has never been on rails, Nick.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
Much like a snake-filled
yeah.
river with speedboats.
The only
You're just
rails
along for
this
the ride.
the only rails this podcast is on are the rails of cocaine I have to do before some of these movies.
I better not hear complaints about the movies I chose, Ryan. I thought they were all bangers.
So you were breaking up there. What were you saying? Sorry. I have some thoughts.
I got some thoughts as well. So yeah, we had Clerks. There we go. I got it right. Which was, honestly, I haven't seen it for ever. I actually did a little bit of extra. I nerded out this week, and I actually did Dogma as well while I was at it. So because we went into the Kevin Smith train. I'm watching it. Mrs. is like, "Oh man, you remember Dogma?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, we got to watch Dogma as well." That was awesome. But the other movies that we also selected, we got 2004's Garden State, which is Zach Braff's movie. He wrote and directed it, starring Zach Braff, Natalie Portman. Hey, Nick's back. Peter Sarsgaard, Ian Holm, Gene Smart. Like that was a pretty impressive cast actually. Once it all sort of came out of the wash.
And old Sheldon too. Like
Yes,
Sheldon, yeah, that was wild to see. Like, how old is he on the Big Bang Theory? What the hell? Like, that's crazy.
Completely forgot that he was in that. And when he popped up, I was watching it this weekend. He popped up. I was like, Sheldon.
Yeah.
But the last one. So not only did Nick mix up the format a bit by, first of all just picking all the movies, but he threw another little spanner in the works, and I'm glad he did because he actually threw in a documentary. Now, this is something that I've heard about for many years. It's a documentary called Class Action Park from 2020. It's an HBO Max sort of documentary, so if you do have HBO right now, you can watch it. And it tells the story of this insane amusement park in New Jersey called Action Park, more affectionately known in some cases as Traction Park. Now, the reason that we were already knew about it and fascinated, but Nick Calderone back in the day actually worked there. And so we've heard stories because, of course, Right This Minute was a viral video show. So every day we were seeing these insane things. And then Calderone starts telling these stories of this mythical park where everybody just died or got injured. And so once we got into it, this story was bonkers, wasn't it?
I can't wait to get into it.
It really, it's baked into the fabric of New Jersey, Action Park. Especially if you're from northern New Jersey or southern New York or eastern Pennsylvania, Action Park was formative for those of us who grew up in the 80s in and around that northern New Jersey Action Park area. And I will, when you're ready to know, I will tell you what I did at Action Park for 2 weeks.
What about, like, Ryan, you're a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Action Park?
No, I think by the time I was like old enough, because it closed down in what year did it close down?
I think they said 96, like the first time.
I remember like growing up, like watching TV and seeing commercials for it and thinking like, oh my God, this is awesome. But there's absolutely no way A, my parents would take me there, or B, ever go to Jersey. But it was like, no, it wasn't as big by the time I was like old enough, or it was already kind of winding down. So it was, it was there, like it was in our bubble, but no, we had never gone.
Will, had you ever heard of this place? Or is this like, or is this like this documentary was just your first introduction to the insanity that is New Jersey?
No, I'm big. I like theme park history. I like learning about theme parks. So I had seen there's a Defunct Land documentary. It was really short though. Like he only gives you like the briefest amount of info. There's another podcast that documents horrible people in the world. I'll give a shout out, Behind the Bastards. They did a 2-parter on the guy who ran this place. So I knew a lot of this info going in. I had not seen this documentary, so it was cool to see people who would work there talk about it. And I'm just excited to hear like Nick talk about it. This is like hearing like somebody who's like, oh yeah, by the way, I worked on Empire Strikes Back. That's what this is like for me. I'm just like, this is incredible. I need
was
to know
at Fire
everything.
Festival or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
that.
exactly.
So, like, Nick, Nick, are you still there, by the way?
I am. Yeah, I'm listening. And at the same time, I'm trying to get this. It's incredible that this camera works day and night in our studio here. We do a lot of work with it. And the moment I need it for you guys, it seems to not be working. But yeah, what was your question?
To be honest, it's giving me flashbacks to working on Right This Minute during the pandemic, because of course we all had to go wireless. Nick, Ryan, Will knows exactly what I'm talking about. Will worked on the show as well. There wasn't a day that we would log in where somebody's camera was broken or some mic wasn't doing what it needed to be doing. It was a very interesting and stressful time, to be honest.
Well, the funny part about this is I was usually the one that got all pissed off and frustrated at other people's technical problems. And now all of a sudden here I am in the same
Now you're
thing.
the
But
problem.
Yeah, no, quick, I'm going to text Christian and Charity and get them on the Zoom call just so they can make fun of you.
Yeah, I don't know what else to try here, but I think somebody had a question about me in Action Park. Are we going there yet? Are we
let's start with Action Park.
Let's do it.
Because it really was such a crazy sort of like look into it. So Nick, first of all, like when you watched it, just tell us a little bit about your memories of Action Park, especially when you're watching the documentary. Were you transported back to a time where you had many injuries and your friends were dying at a theme park?
Were you screaming pussy at the television?
Well, so here's the thing. I didn't grow up with older brothers or sisters. And I think that would have been my sooner and deeper introduction to Action Park. Like you guys, we'd see these commercials all the time about this amazing place that was, going to be the best adventure of your life. You're going to have so much fun. And those commercials were on constantly. But I never really got to go to the park for fun because, like Ryan, my parents would never take me. They knew better.
Mm-hmm.
But you heard the myths of, going back into school after the weekend of people who had been and the crazy shit that went down and how frigid the water was in the rope swings and stuff. So I never got to go as a patron. But when I got like 17 years old and I was looking for jobs, one popped up for Action Park, and I was like, well, now's my chance. now there's nobody to tell me, no, you can't go. It's too dangerous. I can go, and now I'll have a key to the place. I'll be able to go in and do whatever the hell I want. And within the first 30 minutes of being there, I was fucking terrified. Really wish I could get my camera to work. I'm not going to worry about it. But I got placed on one of the go-kart rides.
Oh no!
Which for me, which for me was awesome. I thought this was great. The training was, I think the training was basically like, here's how to log your hours. And that was it. Like there was no
perfect.
Yeah, I don't recall any kind of training about how to handle these high-powered go-karts. And it wasn't like the shitty little go-karts that you see, that we used to have as kids. These were, they had like IndyCar style bodies. I want to say they were 15 or 25 horsepower, which in a small go-kart is a lot for people.
They were saying they get up to 60 miles an hour in the documentary. I'm like, that is insane. Just here you go, have a go, don't die.
Yeah. And my job was to like get people in the cart and seated, and it was like, basically like a bye, I smacked on the ass and off you go. And they'd spin off the track, they'd crash into each other, flip over. And I lasted 2 weeks because I had put in an application at a state park. And I went to go I chose instead to go clean campground bathrooms instead of staying at Action Park.
So at the end of those 2 weeks, did everybody that worked there form like a tunnel for you? And as you walked out in shame, they all just pointed at you and screamed pussy?
Yeah,
Because
that would have been a fun story. That happened every morning when I walked in to work.
And still does to this day.
In some circles, Ryan, yes. In some circles. I was a very insignificant person in the cog of Action Park. But it's a bit of a Forrest Gump moment for me to have a little bit of my, here you go, Ryan, my finger in the Action Park pie.
It was somehow so much more gross than I thought it was going to be.
So for anyone that doesn't know the story, that hasn't seen this documentary, it tells the story of this guy, a penny stockbroker, kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio is doing in Wolf of Wall Street. This guy, Eugene Mulvihill, who, got rich from these pump and dump schemes of just basically just being a bit of a scallywag, goes out into Vernon, New Jersey, buys up a whole bunch of land that there's also like ski runs and stuff. And then they just start building a park with no rules. This guy is like, no, man, everyone else has to live by the rules. We're just going to wing it. And so instead of getting like special designers to design these water things, he goes, just, man, make it a bit faster. And just like this plonking everything, almost like one of those games we used to play as kids, like theme park,
Yeah, roller coaster. The guy is like
roller coaster tycoon.
He's just cocaine Willy Wonka.
There you go. And it just, it gets insane. Some of the quotes from this documentary are shocking. I'm texting the guys just live quoting like, wow, Jersey's a classy place, where they're talking about, because it's basically being run by the kids. It's like Lord of the Flies. And they go, oh yeah, this was the staff area where lots of people were fingering or getting fingered for the first time. And I'm just spitting my drink out.
Yeah.
It's going, Jesus, Jersey, what the hell's going on?
Oh, what? You didn't have a finger shed at your first place you worked at? Come on.
Yeah, that was the tagline at the end of the commercials. It was like, come here, come to Action Park.
You all are sounding like envious little bitches, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Very much.
You can't do that at Hershey Park.
Right. And it's a whole different story at Hershey Park.
Yeah.
Different experience.
Yeah. The chocolate river at Action Park is very different.
But that was the beauty, and that was the beauty of the place, is there were no rules, and like you say, Ollie, the people that were hired were your classic summer employees, teenagers, and there was not a lot of oversight. It was left up to the people that were working there to run the place. There was no like senior management in sight.
Were you staying on the campgrounds like when you would work there, or were people like commuting from home and just going there every day?
What do you mean? There was no. So the campground that I went to work at was a state park.
I see,
unrelated to Action Park.
Overnight.
So the staff weren't living at the facility.
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know if that was a.
Now, did you get to at least in your time there get to at least, and I use this in very light air quotes, enjoy any of the amenities?
The go-karts, I rode the go-karts quite a bit, and that was a good time. But yeah, it was brief. It was scary. It was bloody, and a lot of people would wreck those go-karts and get
I'm sure
skinned up, because people are going out in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops and racing go-karts and
bare ass feet. Sure.
Yeah, and you know what? It was back at a time where people just weren't a bunch of sissy little bitches.
Right.
You want to go have fun? There's risk involved.
That's
for sure.
They very much get into that. It was pretty interesting in the documentary. They find a lot of kids that either worked there or went there when they were younger. And while they're all telling these crazy stories of injuries and things like that, they've all got a wry smile on their face, in as much as it kind of became almost a badge of honor. You went to Action Park, you got yourself messed up a little bit, but you didn't die.
How do you think I got these scars? Yeah.
Until you did die.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because you are a man now. So it's like, but yeah, it's after the first sort of 45 minutes of you just being like, oh my God, talking about how the guy didn't test any of these things. He just offered $100 to teenagers and they got themselves injured. He goes, all right, maybe slow that one down. All right, who wants another $100? Right.
And so the ride you're talking about, I forget the name they use in the documentary.
Cannonball Loop.
The Cannonball Loop. Yeah, it was basically a water slide with one giant loop in the middle of it. So, you'd get in, you'd have this incredible rocket ride basically straight down this tube, and then you'd go into a loop and out the end. But like Ollie was saying, there was no engineering the guy just decided to build a loop water slide, and weren't they testing it with like bags of sand or
It like I
something?
think they had like dummies or mannequins or something.
Yeah.
They would just come out all mangled.
Right.
Decapitated and stuff. Yeah.
And yeah, and when that didn't work, they decided to try human beings.
Yes, naturally, sure.
And then open the ride to the public.
Well, and then they were saying like people were getting like cut up, and they would open the top of it to wonder why people were getting cut, and it's because they were fucking teeth stuck in the top of it from the people looping around, which is horrific.
And if that doesn't boil down New Jersey, I
sure hope this movie doesn't win for Jersey.
It all
might, though.
sounds
It might.
perfectly rad.
It might,
yeah.
though.
It toughened us up, you guys. It toughened
Yeah,
us
I
up.
would say so.
Well, it gets a little bit darker, like, you know, as we were saying, is because it's this guy's got a lot of money he's bought in, so he starts buying into the city and the area. So people start dying from this negligence. I mean, another quote that was bonkers to me was, "Oh, after a few months, we painted the floor of the pool white so we could better spot bodies."
Yeah. I remember that ride specifically. It was basically a Tarzan swing, a big pool of water. And it looked very natural. It was like a dark pool of water. The water was always freaking cold, and people would go in with very little experience, didn't know how to swim, would, you know, strike that water and you know, get the shock knocked out of them, and people were drowning, and the lifeguards weren't particularly prepared.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of guarding of life going on. It's more they would just go. I mean,
There's a 15-year-old kid smoking a joint, like, oh man, I can't even swim, dude.
Because
The lifeguard is spelled wrong on the shirt. Yeah.
They were giving people like wristbands, which I think it was CFS, which was can't fucking swim. And instead of like saying, all right, that doesn't mean you go in the water, that's just a notification that maybe this person's going to die. Keep an eye on them. And it just got wilder and wilder, because when people would try to sort of sue this place, this guy, it was very sort of Donald Trumpian in the way that he would just like, he'd always fight it. He would bleed them of cash. He would take them to court. But in many cases, he seemed to have counselors in the cities kind of like in his pocket, because while it is insane, you're getting insane amounts of traffic and people and money coming into this area, that it got darker and darker and darker. I mean, like, how many people actually died in the end? What was the number? I was trying to keep track of it because they kept going. Like,
it's been redacted.
Yeah.
I think they said officially it was like 5 or 6. But realistically, it's probably 2,000. You know, that's just not documented.
I'd heard too that in, like, I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe no. But at Disneyland or any Disney park, there has never been any deaths, because if you die in the park, they remove your body and pronounce you dead outside of the park. So no one has ever died at a Disney park.
I think that was
why they're saying at least 6 people died.
Right. I think that was true for Disneyland. Well, I don't know if it was actually ever true. There was one time where somebody, I think it was on Big Thunder Mountain, and somebody online will have to correct me on this. I think like they had hit their head and broke their neck or something. I think the rumor was that they were decapitated. I don't think that happened, but it was like they literally hit their head, broke their neck. And I'm like, I think that's when they kind of disproved that theory, because it's like, well, you can't, somebody's head isn't attached to their body anymore. You can't really be like, well, wait till they leave the park.
Well, they
like,
they brought the body out.
The person left in multiple bags, so you kind of have to.
Ta-da!
Scene.
Yeah, I think the most insipid one from Class Action Park was the kid that sort of died going down the Alpine ride, hitting his head on the rocks, and then they made up a story. They said, oh, he was actually an employee. He did it at night, and he shouldn't have been there. All the things that they argued were not true, but they still got away with it. And that's kind of like where it all starts sort of eventually crumbling, because, you know, it eventually gets to this point that there's been so many articles and so many deaths and so many lawsuits and stuff that eventually Action Park died. It does kind of come back a little bit, but like it seems to just be this snatch of time, this legendary snatch of time during the 80s to early 90s, where it's just, and it's a cool part of the documentary is it kind of does get into that whole, the Gen Xers. You know, I'm a Zennial, right? Nick's more of an Xer, like my missus. And it's just, but it was that time that we would just disappear. You know, you'd piss off on your bikes or you'd go off on a bus and stuff. You know, it was a generation where in America, they had to be reminded on the news, do you know where your children are?
Sure.
Every day.
Do you know you have children? Like,
And
oh,
I was of that age. I had every opportunity to do shit like that, and I just didn't. I was like, that's too dangerous. I'm not going there. That's crazy.
But you know, Ali, you strike out a couple of things. It brought that, so that area of New Jersey is pretty rural. And there's just not a whole lot going on. You know, if you put your foot down, you could get to the city in about 45 minutes to an hour, New York City. But most people didn't drive to the city for fun, at least that I knew and hung out with. So this was it was a big money maker. It was a big event. It was a big thing to do. And it was near a ski resort. There was Vernon Valley was the ski resort. Action Park was the theme park. And yeah, people didn't want to see that money go away. So you better believe that Mulvihill was going to do whatever he could to, you know, yeah, it's a little dangerous. People are getting a little banged up, but it's fine. It's all fine. And, you know, also being New Jersey, I wouldn't doubt if there was a little bit of corruption involved.
I was gonna say it'd be
What?
imagine like Martin Scorsese instead of directing Casino directed Action Park and like
Oh,
De Niro
man.
playing
Mulvihill.
like just all like with the voiceover and Pesci going down the slides. I'm like, that'd be amazing.
Oh man, this is my
something.
dream movie.
Instead
right
of that
here.
shitty Pop-Tart movie, give us that.
But I will say that's like something that Nick brought up is, so I've mentioned it a lot on the podcast, but everything I ever learned about America, I learned from American movies. And so I didn't really know much about New Jersey, and any sort of New Jersey stuff I had seen, you know, something like Copland or something like that. It's just, I didn't really understand just how green and rural New Jersey is, considering it is just across the water from New York City. And I think it was my very first trip to New York for something with Right This Minute about a decade ago. And they say, oh, we're approaching landing. And I'm looking out the window at Jersey and I'm like, look at all those fucking trees. Like, well, this
Yeah.
place is really nice.
Yeah. It's like going to a national park and you never leave the main like visitors center of the national park and you think, wow, this national park is really crowded. But if you just take a little bit of time and you hike off on one of the lesser known paths, it's beautiful and green and gorgeous. And to me, that's New Jersey. If you stay anywhere near, you know, the Hoboken, Newark, Union area, that the sections that is right across the river from New York, then that's what you're going to see. But there's a lot of beauty, and Action Park was in a gorgeous part of the state, up in the northern part, and it was truly a cool place, and really something that will never happen again, for good or for bad.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to like pitch a murder park that sometimes entertains people these days, you know. So.
Murder Park, that's a cool name.
Write that
Cool
one down.
name. I only wish I would have gotten to go more. I was a little kid. I was like genuinely a small child at that time, and even when I was a teenager, I didn't grow much. So
You were the perfect size for the cannonball loop.
I could have been, and also the perfect size to get lost at the bottom of the Tarzan swing.
Well, see, look, this is kind of what it's just happened again. It happens in the documentary, and there, bloody Nick Calderone just did it. It's like, yeah, this park killed people, but people from Jersey are like, yeah, but I'd still go. You know, like, I kind of miss it. Like, I didn't die, so fuck it.
It's the same reason you would ride like an insanely dangerous motorcycle. You know, that thrill, that excitement that you could die at any moment. You know, or drown.
Yeah, because you're not gonna, because
No.
you know better.
Yeah.
You know how to. I'm a strong swimmer. Don't suck away my fun just because
No.
somebody you know
Can't fucking swim. Yeah. You
Right.
know.
right.
I think again they're just called pussies.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, yeah, I'm not even from Jersey, but the tanks where they're firing tennis balls that sometimes they like lit on fire, I'm like, yeah, I'd definitely go to that pretty much every day.
Yeah.
You're
I
not
forgot
wrong.
about
Like,
so it wasn't. And sorry, Ali, you're right. And for people who haven't seen the movie or know nothing about it, that theme park, it does sound like it was simply just a water park, but you're right. So there were these little tanks, like go-kart style tanks. They were built like tanks with turrets, and they fired tennis balls. And that, to me, when you watch those commercials, that was just, yes, give me that. Give me all
That
of
shit didn't exist for kids. Like that's
doesn't anymore either. It's like we
Yeah.
never got to do that. And I was like, my favorite part of it's the so Jersey of it all. I mean, like the guy goes, oh, somebody figured out they put a bunch of gas on the balls, set fire to them, and we're just launching like fireballs at everybody else, and just going, what?
Yeah.
How did someone get gas into this place?
I'd be the person like off to the side, fucking mainlining a hot dog, and then next thing I know is a flaming tennis ball hits me in the back. I'd be that would ruin my summer. Cool story though.
The problem was with, but did you die?
Right.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, actually,
Yeah.
you could.
Handful of people actually did. Yeah.
Well, prove it.
Yeah. That was the rather unfortunate part.
You can't testify if you're dead.
We are making
Loophole.
light. We are making light, but unfortunately,
It's horrific. Yeah.
it did get a little out of hand.
A little.
I mean, who would have guessed that an alpine slide where, you're just going down, you basically got a board and a stick to slow you down, going out at incredible speeds. Who would have guessed that that'd be dangerous going down the side of a mountain?
Right.
It's okay. They can. The rocks will break their fall.
I like the
Exactly.
idea. Like,
There's grass. Come on.
What was their lazy river like? It was just spikes.
There are no lazy people.
Yeah,
in
like the
Jersey,
idea of
right?
people going there to like drop their kids off, but you have the parents like just kind of relaxing off to some other chill area. Like everything.
But see, that's funny. Parents. That's why there was no supervision. People, you dropped your kids off to go have a fun day, and that's
fully knowing.
Yeah,
it's what I mean. That's the thing. It certainly is a snapshot. I'll give you that. And it's like the inmates were running the asylum. Like I said, Nick's saying it's the managers were 17 years old and they were smoking weed and hanging out and drinking and yes, of course, let's also focus on Action Park served alcohol. And so
that's crazy.
You drink in the beer tent, and the beer tent was next to the racing track. So people are coming out going, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go race some go-karts right now. It's just like, man, how did you
Brian's
do
being
that?
transported back in time so that he can experience the park.
Guys, I just came back from Action Park, and I have no limbs.
Don't you wish there was an opportunity for something like this though today? Don't you wish there was a place where
little bit, yeah.
I absolutely would go. Yeah.
The closest you can get is like Vegas. Right?
Yeah, well, it's probably like, if you go looking for a park somewhere in Eastern Europe, I bet you can find some sort of like, there's lesser regulations and stuff like that. Maybe there's one in Ukraine right about now. It's the only place you're going to find it. It's never going to be in America ever.
Except those tanks are just actual tanks.
Right. Yeah. Those tanks aren't shooting tennis balls.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to bring this kind of thing to Disneyland. I tried putting snakes in Small World. It just doesn't really. It's not the same kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. They're racing boats where there are snakes when they go in the water. I mean, I was genuinely shocked through the entire documentary, while at the same time being traumatized and thoroughly entertained at the same time.
And a bit envious that you never got to go.
Yeah, you had me at snakes. What if, we just opened a hard ticket to Hawaii Park?
Let's do it. I don't even need to be convinced. All the Frisbees
It's
got
just
razors
all
in them.
hot tubs. All hot tubs.
All hot tubs. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what. So look, the thing is that all of these movies kind of are giving different sort of snapshots of Jersey, and I'm kind of interested, Nick, as to which one kind of connected with you, because they are all okay. One is a documentary, fine, it's all New Jersey, right? But we've got Garden State, Zach Braff's movie, which is entirely shot in New Jersey, and we've got Clerks, which is famously shot all in like 21 days in New Jersey in this store, and it's like, you've got two different types of Jersey. You've got kind of like the more middle class sort of rural with Garden State, and then you've just got the more sort of blue collar, everyone's mean to everybody kind of thing. Which one for you reminded you of your time in Jersey?
I would say I would identify with the people in Clerks more. Those people feel more like the folks I knew, grew up with, were friends with. However, I prefer Garden State as a movie.
Okay, all right, I'm interested. Okay, because like I said, I've known Nick for a long time. All right, Nick and I, we've gone camping. We are homies. We know a lot about each other. But again, watching Clerks was just giving me filling in all these little sort of holes in Nick's personality for me that I was just like, oh my God, oh wow, I don't think I'd survive in Jersey. I think I'd die. Like it is ruthless out there.
Yeah, and you gotta feel for how am I gonna forget the main character's name of Dante?
Yes.
Like he was just shit on the whole way through. Ollie, do you need to do a synopsis of the movie for folks listening?
Oh, it's almost like we're a professional podcast, but sure, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'd say like really
let's
quickly.
not do that then.
No,
Forget it.
yeah.
Very on brand for us to skip right over that.
So essentially, Clerks is really just, it's a very, very simple premise. It's just that Dante, like you're saying, the lead character, he gets woken up. We're introduced to the character as he falls out of his own cupboard. Like he slept the night, like inside his wardrobe or something like that. But he's supposed to have the day off because he's not even supposed to be here today. And he's supposed to be playing hockey at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but he gets the call and has to go into work. And it just tells the story of his day of work, while at the same time, next door is a video store where his buddy is working, Randall, which I feel like is going to be Will's favorite part. All right, because Will very famously worked in a video store when he was younger as well. So I kind of like feel like, so Will, actually, yeah, we'll get into Clerks, because that's basically, it's just one day of work at this place and the shenanigans they get up to. Will, what was it like for you? Because you dropped something on the text thread going, this movie kind of connected with you.
Yeah, this was a movie I think I saw it in middle school for the first time. And I was immediately like, I want to work in a video store. I think I had talked about in the Empire Records episode too. Like, I'm like, I want to work in that kind of store. And immediately after high school, worked at Hollywood Video. And there are things that movie gets so right about what it's like working in a video store. I wanted to be like Randall. I'm not that mean and sardonic to the customers, but there were definitely times where I had like policies in place where, like, I think I said to you guys, if somebody said, "Ooh, Navy SEALs," I'm like, whatever you want, rentals on me. Like, I had all kinds of weird rules like that, but it was very much the same type of environment. The customers came in to annoy you while you just wanted to hang out, and you were like, I guess we have to work. So it really did connect with me. And watching it years later, it's just all coming back where I'm like, yep. I remember calling distribution to be like, hey, we need, like, we're behind on getting these new releases in. So like all that stuff is like very accurate.
That was one of the bits that did make, like I said, I haven't seen this for like 20 years, but it's the bit where some woman comes in with her child to try and get some animated movie, and he's on with distribution. He goes, yeah, one second. Come guzzling sluts. We need 2 big dicks in each hole. And he just goes through all of these like crazy sort of like adult movies, and it's like in front of this kid. And the thing is, no one's fazed by it. In Jersey, nothing. Did you die? It seems to be. It's like, if you don't die, then you've got nothing to complain about, and if you did die, well, it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, the best gag in the whole movie is that lady who's like, "Are these 2 movies any good? I don't watch movies," and then just turns around and comes back. How about these 2? Oh, they suck. And she just gets mad and it's like, I don't appreciate your attitude. I don't appreciate your ruse, ma'am. Like, just killed me. I so wanted to be Randall so bad.
Randall was a great character. I think Clerks is such a great movie because it's the genesis, the birthplace of so much more. You've got Kevin Smith being born right in front of your eyes. His comedic style is laid out in front of you in this classic black and white movie based in New Jersey. So many characters are born in that film. And if it's not for Clerks, I mean, what else? The whole, like you guys said at the beginning, the whole Kevin Smith universe doesn't exist without this movie.
It's such an iconic, like, to have such a dialogue driven comedy, like an unbelievable script. The way this film is, like, the fact that this film even exists is like an absolute miracle. It's incredible. Like, to be able to do that. And I think he funded this movie with what, like $27,000 in like a weekend or something like that. And
yeah, 27 grand. It's shot in the convenience store and video store where he worked. So it's like, because again, so I didn't know any of this. And so the movie starts and it's very famously like, he comes out to open the shutters and they say, oh, he explained away that they got chewing gum in them. And I go, I bet that's because they could only shoot in the store when it was closed, which is exactly what's going on. They could only shoot at night. So Kevin Smith was very famously getting about an hour's sleep because he was working in the store during the day, shutting them down and shooting this film at night.
It's wild.
Like that is a real, I mean, that is dedication. And you can tell so many of these bit players and bit people are like just Jeff from the street corner and some aunt or some uncle that he knows, because some of the line deliveries are kind of interesting, but it's very, very well written. And these scenes play out quite long. That's what I was quite surprised about is that Kevin Smith
like a play.
Written huge amounts of dialogue, but they're not cutting between it. It's just these guys talking for 5 straight minutes. You're like, wow, good for you.
Nick, it reminded me, because we were talking about the show Letterkenny. Like it's like the genesis of that. It's just a group of people having a conversation, but the shit that they're saying is so fucking wild.
Yeah.
And it's like it goes on like a play. It's incredible.
That's one of the notes I had made too. And I think that's why I do still love this movie. I was concerned because I had nominated it for the show. I hadn't seen it in so long. And when I sat down to watch it this week, I thought, crap, does this hold up after all these years? Is it going to be as good? And it is, because for those reasons that you're talking about, Ollie, if you would have described that movie to anybody else, oh, it was shot for $27,000, people would be like, I'm not watching that. That sounds like a terrible, crappy movie. But somehow, whether it be the characters, the writing, the acting, which wasn't particularly awesome, but you get drawn into these people. And you find yourself listening to these long dialogues, and you realize there hasn't been any cuts, no cutaways, no camera movement, no tracking, no dolly, nothing. But I'm entertained and I'm laughing, and I feel empathy for Dante because somehow he's just a shit mop, or as they say in the movie, jizz moppers. And you feel bad for the dude, but then you love Randall because Randall's just seems to be like, the wise old guy. It does stand up after all these years, and I still love it. And I think it is a great, I think it's a good representation of New Jersey.
It's unbelievably authentic. Like the way it's made, like everything about it just feels, and even still, like this movie never resonated with me as much. Like when I was younger, like when I saw this, I know it's an incredible cult classic, but I remember seeing it. I was like, I get it, but it never it didn't change who I am as a person. I just enjoyed the film, but now watching it again for this, you could really see like just the heart and soul that went into this thing.
It's interesting you guys bring that point. I'm now thinking about it, like the order that we're doing the movies is kind of working out, because we started with a documentary, and then where we're now, Clerks is such a low budget, genuine movie being shot on an actual location with real people that it's a film, but it's kind of a documentary at the same time. It's just genuinely how these people talk and how these people are. I love just the running joke of everyone that turns up asks if they're open. Everyone that turns up to the place, everybody just wants a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah,
even
children. That was great. I have to. This might be a silly question, but was this intentionally shot black and white, or was that just a budgetary thing?
It was a budgetary thing. He said like they originally pictured in color, and then they saw the price, and they're like, we'll go black and white.
Yeah, it was shot on the Ariflex SR2 cameras using black and white 16mm Kodak film stock,
and it just has that like student film,
100%.
Really grimy. Which just adds to the authenticity of it.
Now, I've mentioned it before, but like when I was at college, a lot of my friends were doing film studies, and so they were all making their movies like this. And I remember them shooting them with these small 16mm black and whites, recording the sound. And I was, I was acting in these movies. They looked like this movie. Is Clerks the most successful student film ever made? It's just because it goes to Sundance, it gets picked up by Miramax, and it's every time that turns up, it pisses me off because Miramax made and produced and distributed some of the best movies ever made, but they're such scumbags that it always makes my teeth hurt whenever I see Miramax turn up. That I'm like, son of a bitch! But this is a good movie at the same time.
It was good. And I love the Star Wars debate in the middle of it. Like, that's just so, again, I feel that's so New Jersey too. It's so dudes like us would have that exact debate It was just so fun to listen to that. There's still so many of those lines that I quote. You and you guys know me. I don't remember films
Ever.
so I'm not a movie quote machine like you guys are. However, I will very frequently yell to my wife as she's leaving the house, "Try not to suck any dicks today," because of this movie.
It's the most
37
movie quote that you could have remembered.
That was I thought that was one of the funniest goddamn scenes.
That's great. Yeah.
If you haven't seen the
guy
film, they're
follows her,
talking
yeah.
about their numbers. Who, how many people Dante's girlfriend is asking him how many people he slept with. And he's like, what did he say? 12?
12, I
His
think,
number
yeah.
12. And she was all offended. And, oh, she's only slept with 6 people. And it comes to light that she's only slept with 6 people, but she's sucked 37 dicks, including it.
And that destroys Dante.
He says, she sucked 37 dicks in a row?
Yeah, that was the best quote. In a row? The guy's impressed. And wow, all right.
Yeah.
Well, it's at the same time is that Dante's being like this, but he's also in love with this other character. So he's got his self, he's neck deep in his own love triangle. Then you've got, him, he's basically a bit of an asshole, is Dante.
Yeah.
And it's until he gets called out, by Randall later on in the movie, and they have their kind of like their fight sort of thing. But it's kind of like that sweet, it was some line I think Randall says that he's like, I had him first. Like they've got that bro relationship sort of going on there. I also, and I never really watched this show, but I know enough of it that to know the reference. But this movie, considering it's a tight 90, everyone is speaking like they're in the Gilmore Girls. Like they've got so much like Kevin Smith
rapid fire dialogue.
Yeah. It's like, keep up. You can't not pay attention because it's just like watching tennis, but in fast forward as people are throwing stuff backwards and forwards.
Again, it's the Letterkenny of it. It's just that it's like they're so like adjacent in tone and vibe. Very funny.
It's very Planet of the Apes as well. What I mean is like, because you get this kind of like the mob mentality. What I mean, like at the very beginning, you've got the guy, someone trying to buy cigarettes, and you've got the guy who it turns out is actually working for someone.
Oh my God.
But he gets everybody so G'd up about like not smoking that we suddenly cut back inside and they're all like, it's like being in Action Park, just pussy, no.
Yeah. I was gonna say, isn't Jizz Mop like another job you could get at Action Park?
Probably, yeah.
What's funny about that love triangle thing is I have not seen the third one. I've seen the second one, but rewatching this movie, I feel like this movie has aged better than part 2 has in a lot of ways. I don't know how many of you guys have saw the second Clerks
I saw the
movie.
second one, yeah.
Yeah, I started watching it because it was like dovetailed right after the end of this one. And I was like, because I thought so much so that I thought the movie had just restarted because it begins in black and white until he opens the thing. And I'm like, oh wait, no, this is the second one.
Pretty much the same thing. But the funniest part of that movie is that's again another Dante love triangle. And Randall calls it out like, how does this always happen to you? You've always got 2. He's like, how does an ugly chud like you get like 2 chicks always fighting over him? Could happen in the third one, but I'm not going to watch it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't want to go. I mean, for me, I liked sort of the Jay and Silent Bob of it all. I didn't realize that Jay and Silent Bob didn't return until Dogma. In my head, they were in every movie.
No, they're in Mallrats and Chasing Amy. Yeah.
All right. That's the thing.
One of you guys did mention, one of you guys mentioned Mallrats replacing Clerks with Mallrats. And I was almost like, oh yeah, let's do that. Because Mallrats was definitely...
I would have been down with that as well.
Yeah.
I hear that's one of those ones I haven't seen. Like with some of the Kevin Smiths, like I haven't seen like Jersey Girl. I haven't I've honestly, Dogma was my jam. I'm missing Dogma in theaters. And that's honestly where I discovered Kevin Smith. I'd heard about him, people talking about this movie, but seeing Dogma in theaters, like when Miss and I watched it the other day and we sort of got our daughter in from him, and then they come, because this movie is crazy. These guys are angels, and it's such an out there movie. I think of all Kevin Smith's movies, it's the one that I think is the ballsiest movie he made.
The one I love that no one ever talks about is the Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan movie Cop Out, which I love.
Wasn't it supposed to be called A Couple of Dicks?
Yeah.
And then they
much better title, but
so they called it Cop Out.
A cup full of dicks, yeah.
I just remember Kevin Smith because Kevin Smith is a prolific podcaster and things. He does lots of interviews, so I've heard a lot of this stuff. But yeah, he did not like making that movie. He's like he
Yeah.
did not get on with Bruce Willis in that particular case. Though he did turn up in Die Hard 4. Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
He's the hacker in Die Hard 4. Now I
Mhm.
think about it. Now Ryan, you interesting because I know Will was like, yeah, disconnected. And Nick's, yeah, disconnected. You did suggest on the text thread that this didn't quite land for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen it back in the day and I'd seen it a bunch of times since then. And I understand its cultural relevance and I respect that, but this just wasn't my vibe. Like, I love it as a film, but I don't hold it to this high of a standard as many other people might, you know?
Is it because you identified too much with the Willem character, the guy with the trench coat and the hat? And
Absolutely,
like,
yes.
this guy's way too close to me personally.
Yeah, 100%.
Snowball.
Yeah, I was more the guy with the hard-boiled eggs, just they're bashing the eggs. Yeah.
That was
Oh
so
my
good.
god! And then this. Keep going.
You gotta
Go.
think. Yeah, you gotta know. You gotta know when you're watching that. You know that happened to Kevin Smith on
100%.
a ship. You know that because that's a brilliant scene. But that's something like that's kind of hard to just make up in
Yeah.
your head.
It's too out of pocket.
Yeah,
sure.
that definitely came from experience, which is just bizarre.
I think it seems like all of this stuff did,
Yeah.
you know, like that's what I'm saying. Like this movie just there has this undeniable level of authenticity to it where all of these things probably did happen because the script is just too good for it to be fabricated, right?
There is something that happens in the movie that I did not remember, and I didn't see it coming because the guy comes in, needs to use the restroom, asks if he can borrow a porn mag, and we never see that character again until hashtag spoiler alert. It turns out that Dante's the one that he's really in love with goes in the dark and fucks a dead body. And I was like, what the? And when they're wheeling the dead body out with the erection, it was just like, oh my god, this movie. What
Now, okay, did she fuck a dead body or did she kill him with sex?
Mhm.
Is she a murderer?
Find out next time on.
That's
I think it's implied he was because he was in there for a while. I think he shows up halfway through the movie, so that would be like midday or something. But I don't know. Maybe he was just. Maybe it takes a really long time to get through the mag. He was reading all the articles until.
That's true. A lot of letters in there. Yeah.
And I was because it took me a second to put it all together because she comes out the bathroom and she's like, "Oh, that was amazing. That was the hottest sex." And like, I'm kind of like both Randall and Dante. I'm just like trying to put this. Wait a minute, what am I missing here? And when it finally,
you really do forget about it that guy
finally
came in.
lands, you're just like, oh my god. It's like I've only ever seen that in one other movie, and it's where the dead body. It's Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh.
Where
like,
like
what
at one
movies are you
point
watching?
Bernie gets laid. It's just what.
See, and
what the hell?
I'm with you, Ryan. I don't know that I exalt Clerks to some cinematic masterpiece, but I appreciate it for the fact that it was, that kind of script writing and that kind of reveal and moment in a low budget film like that for a new filmmaker. I just thought like that's great. That's great.
Oh, it's like absolutely lightning in a bottle for sure.
Yeah.
And
and
for
I'm
this
not
movie
trying to convince you that it's anything better than.
Oh, no,
but
you don't
I
need to.
think that's what made me at the time like the movie and still remember it and revere it to this day for a guy who appreciates movies not like you guys. So after all these years, I finished it and I was like, yeah, that's still great. Still,
it is. Yeah.
I think what you got to do is we've all worked in this industry or tangentially in the television or film industry and things like that. We understand the challenges that come with the production sort of along those lines, and to sort of put everything on top of that he originally Kevin Smith wrote the role of Randall for himself, which is why Randall's got all the best lines. But Kevin Smith quickly found out, much like George, is that to direct and write and shoot and star, as well as working in the store during the day, he was going to die. So there's the hustle of that, but also for the funds, he sold his comic book collection, borrowed $3,000 from his parents, maxed out 8 of 10 credit cards to the limit, got some of his college education money, paychecks from working at the Quick Stop, and some insurance money awarded for a damaged property from a flood. got his budget of $27,575.
Crazy.
And to be able to make that, turn that around, put together something that gets to Sundance and actually gets released, you've just got to give respect to the hustle.
If you try to make that movie now, $300 million.
Yeah, they have to shoot it on the volume. I mean, the only thing that's more impressive is when you hear that $27,000 for the budget, is when you hear that like a year or two prior, Robert Rodriguez made El Mariachi for $20,000 less. That's where like your head really melts and the world doesn't even make sense anymore.
The story of El Mariachi is wild. I was watching some interview with Robert Rodriguez talking about that, and the fact is that they only had enough money for like one take. So every take is just the first take, and then as soon as they did it, because they couldn't record sound at the same time, they go and make everybody just quickly redo the scene just for sound, and everything's layered over the top and things. And that, again, so El Mariachi makes Robert Rodriguez go from Who to then making Desperado to then, just like blowing up. And it's kind of like these guys are, it's kind of ahead of their time. Nowadays we have YouTube. Everybody, my entire production studio for doing That Englishman in Texas is this phone right here. But back then you had to really want it. And to go out and do it, you had to put, the same thing. Robert Rodriguez just took every penny that he had to make this movie. It's either going to work or I'm bankrupt. And it's like, it's two of these very, very influential directors of the late 90s, early 2000s to come out of this kind of thing. You got to give credit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a reason this movie is such a huge cult classic. And I mean, just watching it again, it shows, like, you can see. And Nick, we always talk about on this, like, watching movies that you hold near and dear to you, watching them again for this podcast, you have to, look through a slightly more subjective lens, and you have that worry, you have the rose tinted glasses, like, is it going to hold up? Do I remember it the way or am I going to remember it as fondly? And this one absolutely does. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd almost I was sitting there going, I was trying to put myself in the head of some of these younger kids like Gen Z or stuff because this movie is filled with the kind of talk that definitely would offend the younger generations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a very accurate way of how people, especially I'd say Jersey as well by the scenes of it. But they are ruthless, and they're throwing out all these kind of like slurs at each other, and they're just digging at each other. But it's like at no point does it actually come across as actually like being exploitative or like in any way actually sort of targeting these people. It's more just the way people talk. Like Jason,
it's not vindictive for sure. Like
Jason Mewes, for example, plays Jay of Jay and Silent Bob. Like everything that comes out of that guy's mouth is just awful and so offensive and so mean and so just way over the line. And you just don't understand why you like the guy. But Jason Mewes has got something about him that you're like, why do we like this guy? He's a drug dealer that says everything abhorrent in the movie. And you're like, yeah, okay, he's funny.
So Ollie, does that show you a little bit about maybe why you like me?
Yes.
Because I've been known to get away with saying some pretty ridiculous crap. And just somehow, slathering it in a generous coating of charm and sending it on its way.
Well, I think we got slathered in a generous coating of being edited. So, like I said, so we were all four of us actually. We were all together very recently. We were all in Phoenix, and so we got together at Nick's studio, and we've got these things, very famous things that no one. So, if you ever watched Right This Minute, you saw a very genuine reaction of us as friends, but there was a whole other version of Right This Minute, which is all the stuff that was cut out that could not get on television, which we call magic moments. And we got together, we're watching some of these magic moments, and you're just like, wow, Calderone.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the editing staff.
We always did so that we always one day were hoping that we could do Right This Minute at night, late night Right This Minute. Where we could say all the stuff that we were really saying that did get cut out. But that was, but yes, Nick, watching Clerks, like I said, I was like, all right, I understand the genesis of my friend now. It's like, that's why I think it'd be quite entertaining for me to go to Jersey, like go to your hometown with you. I feel like it's not like, Texas, everyone's like, oh man, how are you going to survive in Texas? Everyone's friendly here. I think in Jersey, it's like you either survive or die. It's like
you wouldn't last a day.
It's a good place.
Well, but there is another movie, all right? So you've got Clerks. We've got this whole kind of like this blue collar vibe, and then there's this movie, Garden State. Now, I'm a huge fan of Zach Braff. I loved watching Scrubs. I always found it very entertaining. And this is a movie, never saw it, but I've always heard about it. Since it came out in 2004, everyone's talking about Zach Braff. Everyone's talking about this little indie movie. It just blew up. It kind of gave him this bona fides for like becoming a filmmaker. You've got Natalie Portman, Peter Sarsgaard, Ian Holm, Gene Smart, an incredible cast. So I was really excited to watch it. And I watched it, and I was like, it's all right.
I think I felt the exact same way, but the impact this movie had on that indie movie scene when this came out, like it was huge. Like, because this was one of the first like films like that the soundtrack was a huge component of it.
Yeah.
Like all the music they were using was like integral to this film.
Well, yes. Okay, I want to get into that because everyone's talked about the soundtrack. Okay, so you're right. This is a very early 2000s. It's an indie movie. It's 2.5 million. It makes 35 million. It's got its flavor and it's got fingerprints and everything. But there were only like 4 songs in the movie. Like
No, dude, come on.
No.
There was music throughout, and it was a awesome soundtrack.
It was definitely. I was starting to like make predictions. Like, okay, are they gonna play this during the movie? To play that because like the soundtrack, I was like vibing with it. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm like. Nick Drake's gonna come up now, and then it would happen. You know, I actually said in the text. Yeah, I actually said in the text thread, I'm like, I can't believe they have Nick Drake on the soundtrack and not Elliott Smith. That feels illegal to me. I don't know. That seems weird, but I thought it was a great soundtrack. I was enjoying it.
Yeah,
I wasn't saying this, but I was like, Empire Records had a better soundtrack.
Agree. But,
So wait, none of you guys had seen this before? This was your first viewing of?
Yeah,
of
this was my
First time.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Okay.
Wow.
So Nick, you've seen this movie before us?
Yeah, I had seen it.
That's insane. That's never actually happened in the history of all of us being friends. Like, Nick knows nothing about movies. We all have a group thread that we're all texting on every day. We play Framed every day, which is basically, can you identify this movie? And Calderone famously either just never gets it or plays once every 6 months because he goes, oh, I know this movie. This is a NASCAR movie. And it's like, so you've actually seen, when did you see this movie, Nick?
I saw it way back in the 2000s. I don't think I saw it at a theater, but I might have.
This is 05?
2004.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I liked it. I liked it at the time. I thought I liked the storyline. I liked how Braff's character was so numb at the beginning, and you're kind of you just don't know why at first. You don't know why he's basically dead on the inside. You learn about his mental issues and the medication that his father, who's a psychiatrist, has put him through. And I think the way Braff handles it all the way through, you see him kind of come out of this brain fog of drugs, of prescription drugs. I thought he played that really well. The thing I never liked about the film was that I never bought Zach as a sexy love interest kind of guy.
Disagree.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I was saying the same thing to Mrs. I was telling her about Garden State. And I said, yeah, no, it's very well. And I said, you're right, Nick. Very, like, he does play up that because he's just like through the whole sort of first half of the third of the movie, he's just there's no emotion on his face.
This is like the opposite. It's like the opposite of Office Space. You know, you have the Peter character that is not dealing with this shit that then goes through the psychoanalytical break and then just somehow bags Jennifer Aniston. Sure.
Well, because like for me, I said to Mrs. is like the thing that didn't quite work for me was the Natalie Portman, Zach Braff things. Now Natalie Portman is an exceptional actress. I mean, like, and she's still, I was saying to Mrs. she's 23 in this movie. She looks 12. Like she's just like she's just a child. But anytime there was like a moment where they kissed, it was just like lips touching. There was nothing. There was like 0% chemistry when it came to any moment when they were kissing. They were like cousins.
I said on our
practicing
text
kissing.
thread, Hulk Hogan and Tiny Lister had more sexual chemistry in No Holds Barred than they had in this movie.
That goes without saying. I mean, come on. But yeah, I kind of was feeling the same way. Like you know, I think I said in the text thread as well, like, other than looking
Yeah.
like Natalie Portman,
Yeah.
why would anybody want to hang
And
around this
she-
character? Because
yeah.
I found her, she's a good, and again, Natalie Portman, incredible actor, it just shows her range, but I would not be able to stand this person.
She
So
was
I
giving
didn't
off like
get
little
the,
sister
See,
energy
that's
the whole time.
interesting. I fell in love with her character immediately. I'm like, oh my God, she's so cute and endearing. And I think for me, the reason why I didn't get the chemistry between the two is because I wanted to be in his shoes. I'm like, nah, I thought she was adorable and endearing.
Sure.
And from the beginning, I was like, oh,
She's not like the other girls.
yeah.
well, I think you're onto something, because like I actually think if it was a different lead actor and maybe somebody who's a bit like a little bit younger than Zach Braff, who had a different camera, I think I would have bought into it a lot better. Because I think she's doing incredible as a performer.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, she has an Oscar for a reason. But yeah, like Braff, I'll say I think I liked this movie more than you guys did. I actually really enjoyed it overall. But yeah, there was something about their chemistry that was like off to me, and I felt like something needed to change.
She felt like a little sister and not like a romantically like interest.
Well, see this thing. So I may not have seen the movie, but I've heard of the movie. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to Natalie Portman's character being, for many people, like the prime example of the manic pixie girl or whatever that, it's that. It's that sort of archetype that sort of turns up in movies of kind of like Ryan's saying is, I'm not like the other girls. I'm random. I'm quirky. I'm strange. I'm weird. I'm just going to do things a little bit strange and
kill hamsters,
yeah, right. And I wear a helmet and stuff like that because I fall over. But it's like by the end of it, because I was kind of getting, like I said, the movie started very strongly for me. And I was digging, like, got Coldplay and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm really digging how it's shot. But then sort of like kind of by the end of it, I was like, well, what was her arc? What was her anything? Her character never really got to go anywhere. And the bit that kind of, like at the end of the movie, when Zach Braff has finally been like, had this realization of, you know what? I don't think I've felt an emotion for the last 15 years because I've been on drugs. And he's like, I need to go off. I need to get my head right. And like, so he's saying like, we can't be right now. I need to go and figure out who I am so that we can be in the future. And the great acting from Natalie Portman, and she's crying. And I'm going like, oh yeah, okay, good for you, man. Like, he's right. 2 minutes later, he goes, fuck it, I'm back. Let's just get together. I go, no, that's a terrible idea. This is never going to work. It's like, I just thought it was a really brave ending. Then he went, nah,
And they were together for 3 days.
Yes.
Right?
So okay, we've done what we like to do on the podcast is talk about the movie without actually saying what the plot of the movie is.
Again, very on brand.
But fundamentally is Zach Braff comes back to New Jersey to bury his mum who has died drowned in the bathtub. We find out that she was a paraplegic later on in the movie. We find out that when he was 9 years old, he got angry at his mum and pushed her. She tripped over the door of the washing machine that had popped open and it paralyzed her, basically scarring him. And at this point, his dad, who is a psychiatrist, being amazingly played by Ian Holm. I mean, the guy is a master actor.
Cornelius from Fifth Element. Yep.
Yeah, he's been drugging. Well, not drug, but has given him prescription drugs. You get that one shot at the beginning when he opens up his
all the pills.
and it's just everything. Wild. And so it's kind of like it's it's well done with the relationship between the father and
it's beautifully shot, like you said. Like it's a great looking, very unique style for that time.
But it's interesting as well as to sort of like what it shows about Jersey again, because like these three movies, it's like we come back and it's like, so we've got Peter Skarsgård and we've got kind of like his old school friends. And so it's a bit more middle classy-ish. People are still kind of mean to each other. I mean, Peter Skarsgård, he robs graves. It's just like, he robs graves. And
interesting character quirk.
They don't specifically.
We've all been there.
Like they don't specifically talk about it when we go to the bottom of that quarry to meet that couple that are living there. Oh, we deal in antiques, and I'm like, oh right, so he robs graves, and these are the fences that sell his stuff, and I'm just like, even just the average person in Jersey is like, I mean, well, they weren't doing anything with it. We're just going to rob this grave and take a bunch of drugs and hang out. And I'm like.
The funny part I found about the movie too was all of, and I don't know how to describe this, if there's a term for this in movie lingo, but all of the just unnecessarily strange things in the movie for the sake of being strange.
Natalie Portman.
So they, you know, they're in the, first of all, you've got a sidecar motorcycle. Like, who rides those around? Nobody. So that's just, you know, uniquely unique for the uniqueness of it, you know. And she's got her little padded helmet on. That's odd. And Sarsgaard's wearing a weird helmet. Then they go down to this quarry, and the folks down there are weird, and they live in a boat that's you know, on land. That was weird. At the end of the movie, he just comes running back in, and she just happens to be in a phone booth. Why was she in a phone booth? Like, and how did he find her? You know, like, what? Oh, there you are. You just pop out of a phone booth. Like, but somehow all of those weird, quirky things, as much as they annoyed me, were also things that I kind of liked, and were also the fabric of the film.
He took a lot of big swings in his first kind of directorial effort, and it shows. Like, on one hand, like, a lot of it worked, but also a lot of it didn't quite work. But
he's definitely trying something, because he was definitely just known as that guy from Scrubs. He comes out and does this movie.
That's who that is?
I do appreciate him as a director. Like, he directed a few episodes of Ted Lasso. I know he's been directing like that Harrison Ford, like, Shrinked or whatever, another one of those Apple Plus things. So he does a lot of sort of good work. He has made other movies as well. And I think the guy genuinely kind of knows what he's doing. But I think in this case, because it's very similar. I mean, you kind of like look at Clerks and you look at Garden State. They are separated by 10 years, but their stories are almost identical. You know, Clerks is shot in 21 days for $24,000 or whatever it was. Garden State was shot in 25 days for $2 million. It's like, it's all being shot in their hometowns. It's being shot with their own sort of, like, it's just Kevin Smith and Zach Braff going, this is my Jersey. This is me and my New Jersey. In both ways, they're very, very similar movies. Like, Nick, again, credit to you. Worst movie guy I know. And I was saying, Mrs. He picked three great. I said, I don't know how we're going to pick which one is more Jersey.
We've done 50 some odd episodes. We still can't even do that.
And
we watched fucking Superman 3 last week.
A classic, as we all agree on. I mean, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. My fear going into it was, this is around the time when like mumblecore movies really started to take off, where everybody's kind of monotone. And I remember seeing trailers where like there's like weird things going on, and Zach Braff has kind of like no reaction to it. So my fear was it was going to be one of those movies. When they introduced the lithium, that he had been prescribed lithium, just having worked in special ed, I was like, oh, I know what that means. That's pretty intense for like, that's really for people who have like severe, like, cannot control their emotions and stuff. And so to give it to somebody who's been traumatized, I'm like, ooh, that would kind of like dull everything for you. So all of a sudden the character made sense. And the fact that not everybody was monotone and just like that, it would like, so as the longer the movie went on, the more I'm like, oh, okay, I can get into this more. This isn't what I was afraid it was going to be. I did really, really enjoy it. I laughed a whole lot. So I dug it. It worked way more for me than it did.
It's not that I didn't dig it. I think the problem was its reputation preceded it. So I've spent 20 years hearing about this movie. It's been on my list of, I should watch that for 20 years. And when people talk about it, they talk about it with quite high regard. It's got very high reviews and things like that. And it's got a lot of actors I respect. So I guess I kind of walked into it going, this is going to blow my socks off. When I watched it, I go, this is a very competently made original indie picture. So that's kind of like, I was waiting for that, whoa, I was waiting to be blown away, and it just never kind of rocked up in that regard.
It's very much a product of its time. It's a movie I would only watch if I were forced to doing a podcast. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. It's a movie I feel like I've seen because it was so popular. Like, everyone's like you were saying, everyone's talking about it. It's a culty kind of film. But going back and watching it again with fresh eyes, I think just like in Clerks, it's got a very authentic kind of feel to it. The way all the characters are, the way they all interact, their dialogue, that the fact that that Sheldon shows up banging his mom wearing like a full suit of armor is wild to me. Like, giving him that scene, like that scene opens up. I just assumed that they were brothers. Like he was this little brother, but he works at a medieval times. He's wearing a full fucking suit of armor, eating a bowl of cereal, and she's just like, talking about the marshmallows. Fuck, it's so wild.
He's a
I like that it
Yeah.
takes so long to get to the medieval times explanation. Like he's just
Yeah.
in a suit of armor for a long time.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes, and
And
eventually
he
like,
worked his
so
way
how long
up
have
to
you been
that.
working at
Yeah.
medieval time? And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now
Right.
this all makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Those are the weird quirks that I did
like it.
appreciate. Yeah, that I liked about it. But yeah, Ryan, you're a bit of a dick. And
Definitely.
I think you would belong really well. I'm going to cast you in Clerks 4 as a classic Jersey guy. I think you
I'm into
earned
it.
yourself a role there. No, I hear
into
you. The Shins did really change my life. When Natalie said that, I was like, oh, I like this song. I gotta go listen to more. That the soundtrack set me off on a musical path.
It did for a lot of people. The soundtrack was like immensely huge.
Yeah, that was and who another weird thing, silent Velcro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that was fantastic.
Yes.
When they're playing with it later, it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
He's like, who would have thought? Yeah.
That was great.
So
I do
yeah,
like that.
you kind of had that interesting cast of characters, and it was, again, it was kind of reminding me a little bit Wolf of Wall Streety, because there is that part where, in Wolf of Wall Street, when he goes over to Jersey and he's meeting all these crazy people that he then assembles into his sort of like team of like people to rip people off, and it was just kind of reminding me, because you've got the guy that's made all this money from silent Velcro, so you've got this massive house, got no furniture, you got Peter Skarsgård, you got people coming up like like the guys, well, you're back. Everyone's always asking why he's back in town, or this guy. What's the guy? The guy, aren't you like burying people now or something like that? He goes, yeah, my mother.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. So it's got like this small town vibe, and it's just filled with all these interesting characters. I guess like Nick, when you were growing up, Nick, like he said, he grew up as an only child, even though he does have siblings, they're just way, way older. So Nick was always just kind of bouncing around by himself. Did you have a cast of characters? Did you have like a New Jersey Goonies?
Were you a grave robber?
No, but there were cemeteries that you could go to and just play around. No, because I was
Play around? What?
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
ask questions, Ryan. Come on.
You didn't go play around in cemeteries?
No.
Just me? Interesting. Yeah, there was old cemeteries in the woods, like old, like 1800s kind of
Oh
cemeteries.
shit.
And yeah.
No, man, that's how the hauntings happen. I don't.
No, I grew up. There wasn't a whole lot of people around. I had friends, but it was very rural. But the character of New Jersey rung through. The whole quarry idea, the rainy, the green, the green vegetation all around outside. That quarry scene was like, oh man, we had quarries nearby.
That's
We'd
awesome.
ride our bikes in it, and so that part of it really kind of rung a bell.
It would have been so easy to pick like a city-based Jersey film that was probably shot in New York, but was set in New Jersey or vice versa. So I like that you picked these three more rural to paint that broader picture of Jersey. I thought that was really
I mean,
nice,
for example,
nice way to
because
do it.
Jersey, I've been,
I think like The Sopranos and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to go
Yeah.
with Copland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I already had an idea of where we were going to go with Jersey. So I kind of like, again, like what Nick did of just like he threw in a couple of movies that I probably wouldn't have landed on, like to begin with. And you're talking about, Nick, you're talking about the sort of the genuine nature of the reality of it. So we've got, Class Action Park, we've got Garden State, we've got Clerks. Which one of the three, like, was, when you were watching it, you were feeling like that tingle of home? Because you were even just in Jersey like last week, weren't you?
Yeah.
So you were just there. So which one of these was kind of like waking up those memories of being a kid? Or which one was making you go, I know someone like that, or I remember this or that and the other? Which of the three was really kind of hitting it for you?
So Action Park was obviously just super reminiscent. Took me down memory lane a lot. But it didn't hit it for me all the way. Great doc. I love Garden State. The characters there are warm and entertaining. The script was great. I got to say Clerks. I think Clerks, for me, I know those people. I feel like I grew up with some of them. I feel like if I would go back to my hometown today, I could probably find Jason and Silent Bob, you know, today. And so Clerks does it. It's set there. The look, it has the look, it has the people, and it triggers Kevin Smith. And so for me, I'm putting my stamp of United States of a Movie for New Jersey on Clerks.
You know, and I could see that. I think because Clerks feels like, you guys brought it up earlier, that you've like some of the stuff that is so out of pocket had to be real. You know, it's stuff that Kevin Smith had to have experienced. The fact that it's actually the store that he works in.
Them playing hockey on the roof.
Yeah,
like,
and it's like, because while Garden State felt very much as well like, oh, you're bringing me into this sort of community, it had this element of like, also we're trying to be a little filmy about it.
Yeah.
We're trying to be a bit artistic about it. We're going to sit in front of the fires. We're going to have me wearing the shirt that's the same as the background, you know, like you said, oh, we're going to have the sidecar. So we're adding all these kind of like these quirky elements that that just are, Nick, I think you said it, like basically the sprinkles on top, as opposed to just like Clerks being, here is a sandwich, you know.
Right.
This is a
you look at Garden
sandwich.
State now, and I think I know this wasn't ever the goal, but you watch it now, and it kind of like, maybe this was my opinion, just it almost feels a little pretentious in a way. Like, I know that was never its intent, but you watch that now, you're like, because it's so much a product of its time, versus you get that, just like I said before, that authenticity of Clerks that just kind of rings so much truer through it.
Yeah, I mean,
and I really enjoyed Garden State. That, to be clear, Nick's looking at me, is like, I'm gonna fucking murder you.
Well, yeah, I think Clerks is also, you know, like we were saying, we brought the first documentary, you know, to the show, and then you have Garden State, which is a full movie. Clerks is also like the best, like, in between of those, because it's so documentary like, but while also being a movie, and just, it can't help but be New Jersey. They didn't have the budget to be anything else, so it's just, it's so in the DNA of that.
You can't take the Jersey out of any of these movies.
No, this, like I said, honestly, Nick, the three best like choices you could have had, because there are some weeks where, I mean, you know, we get interesting choices, or sometimes it's like, oh, it wasn't even shot there. But I was saying the same thing to Mrs. going, man, it's the three most New Jersey movies we could have chosen. And I'm like,
three-way tie.
We have exactly. We honestly, we walk in. If I put money on it, I was like, because the bold choice of putting a documentary into it, and the fact that it got so into the mindset of people that went there by talking to them and just seeing them gleefully tell stories of getting like burnt up on their arms, or crashing, or breaking a leg, or just like showing off their scars when they went to school the next day and sneaking away from their parents. Then I'm like, oh man, this is actually going to be hard to beat. But I think, you know, Will, like we've all sort of said, is that Clerks is that just sweet spot of perfect, like, middle ground of everything, that I think, I think
it's the perfect little pocket to quantify this entire state. It's to be able to do that with such a small scale film is unbelievable.
And also, like, we can't argue the effect that this movie then had. You know,
they made two more, sure.
Yeah, but for Kevin Smith to go on and make like every other movie he makes is basically, he's kind of like the Farrelly brothers with Rhode Island. You got Kevin Smith and that Jersey sense of humor. I mean, pretty much all of his movies are then set in Jersey, Jersey Girl, Mallrats, Dogma. You know, we can go. Yeah,
it would have almost been, I think, wrong to pick any other Kevin Smith movie for this episode than the genesis of it as Clerks, you know. Though I do love Mallrats.
I wanted to talk Dogma. Tell you, like, watching Dogma was fun, because that is like such a ballsy and controversial. But all right, I think we're all landing in the same place here. There's no more debate. Are we gonna say, like, we're going with Nick's choice here? That Clerks is the one. All right, so here we go. Fine. We've officially decided that here at the United States of Movie, the movie that best represents New Jersey, at least until we come back for season 2 and bring some other movies to the table, is 1994's movie Clerks, written, directed by Kevin Smith, Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Jason Mewes, and Kevin Smith as Silent Bob. There we go. All right, we have figured out Jersey, but at the same time, as we have discovered with many states here in America, there are some that are kind of hard to pick when it comes to Delaware, because there's only about 11 movies to choose from. Jersey has thousands. I mean, so many movies. So I'm going to start with the host first, Nick, before I come to you. But guys, what were some of the movies that you thought we were going to do or thought we might choose? Like for me, it was like Copland was like way up there, or Snake Eyes was another one that I was like, I haven't seen because it's set in Atlantic City.
Atlantic City, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So like any other movies that you guys were thinking about?
I had one that I floated, and I'm upset I didn't pick it for our Christmas episode because what did I end up going with? Batman Returns.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But I was going to pick the Ryan Reynolds comedy film Just Friends, where he was a chubby boy, but then he becomes super hot, but then he has to go back to his hometown, to Jersey. And it's a very funny Christmas film.
Anna Faris, that movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard of but never seen it.
Oh my God.
Are you sure it's Anna Faris? I think it's
she's in that. Yeah, she plays the celebrity. He works as like a
but
music agent.
not the romantic lead. Yeah,
no, it's Amy Smart. Is
Amy
the
Smart?
romantic
Yes.
lead. Yeah, but it's great.
What about you, Will?
I was gonna pick a Kevin Smith movie regardless. So if Clerks was not picked, I was gonna go with Mallrats. I might have even considered like a Jersey Girl because I think that's better than its reputation. Like people kind of like crap on that movie a lot, but I think it's actually pretty good. But I was going to land on a Kevin Smith movie kind of no matter what because he has 97 to choose from. So
but there are there are certified bangers. You got Donnie Brasco, American Gangster, American Hustle. You got Cinderella Man, Many Saints of New Rounders.
Yeah.
It just like it goes on, and then of course, yeah, every Kevin Smith movie basically ever made, Chasing Amy.
I believe Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai was on that list, but I wasn't sure if it was set in Jersey or really in New York.
I don't know why that movie makes me laugh so much. Just
it's amazing.
The idea of Jim Jarmusch making the movie Ghost Dog.
It's wild.
I remember my brother watching it on VHS years ago, and I'm like, what the hell? I only actually watched this movie for the first time last year. It's
so good.
What's his name? Help me out.
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. So Nick, it's a very strange movie. That is Forrest Whitaker is a hitman that follows the ethos of the samurai, but lives with pigeons in New Jersey and just goes around. It's freaking strange.
If you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah. There's the memes that are going around. It's like when a guy says he's got a lot going on right now, and it just shows something. There was a gif of him just with a samurai sword on top of the roof.
Yeah,
of the building.
It's just literally modern Forrest Whitaker in the city, just swinging a samurai sword. Like every goofus you've ever seen at like a swap meet.
Yeah,
just
he's
mall ninja shit. Yeah,
he's mall ninja, exactly.
Yeah.
It's called Ghost Dog: Way of the Samurai. It is a bizarre movie, but one I would recommend.
Fucking
just
rules.
For the, you just watch it going, what?
That's really good. Yeah, I like that movie a lot.
Well, look, basically, it's like we've had 3 great movies. We landed on Clerks, but what I'm seeing is that we have a huge selection to get into when we come back around. To be interesting to see if we can find something to topple Clerks, considering it hitting such a sweet spot. But I can't wait to come back around to Jersey. This one's going to be a fun one, which means we've only got one thing left to do. We are
the pen of destiny.
The pen of destiny. All right, so we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. We've got North and South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Indiana. Still to go. So we're going to use the magical pen of destiny. Nick, if you don't know, this is how we do it. I throw a pen up in the air, whichever one it lands on. This is the one we choose. We are pointing directly at South Dakota. Okay. I couldn't name one movie.
Fargo. Wait, where's Fargo? Is Fargo North Dakota or South Dakota?
We always wonder if there's been so many states.
Or is it Minnesota? Yeah.
I think Fargo has been suggested for like 8 states, and we can't figure out where it's set.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to figure that one out. But next week here at the United States of a Movie Podcast, we will be heading to the state of Dakota. Of course, also once we finish season 1, we're going to be having like a March Madness bracket as we try to crown the champion state with the best movie. I don't know how Ryan is doing. This is
There
great.
we go.
He's gone back in time again.
How did I get here?
It's just my time. You can always find me talking about movies on Facebook as Ollie Pettigrew or online as That Englishman in Texas. You can find Will. He likes to get into movies on his TikTok entitled Willennial. He's got a huge selection of Blu-rays that he's constantly adding to. I don't know where he finds the time to watch them, but every now and again, You will get
I've
into
got
a movie.
6 coming. Oh my god,
He has
I'm
a
out
problem.
of space.
Ryan, he's a great graphic designer. He really does get into stuff. You can see some of his redesigned movie posters as well if you look.
Those
out.
aren't mine. Those are mine.
Oh, those are his are
No.
even better.
Yeah.
But you can buy them online at his store, Etsy, Threadless, things like that. Rhino Digital, RYNO Digital. Nick, what are you up to? Anything that you want to plug? Anything that you got, like, you know, sort of you want to get going on? Where can people find you if they want to get back on the Right This Minute Nick train?
NickCalderone.com. That's it. If you need videos made, production videos, documentaries, commercial videos, or if you just want to hire me to be on your commercial, I got a new infomercial coming out soon, fellas, that you're going to be seeing me on.
What kind of cream is it?
It's an.
I'm
itch
asking
cream.
because I need some.
It's an itch cream. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the next time you see the pocket hose commercial, you'll see me on there playing the quintessential fumbling idiot who can't get anything right. But
I just figured
You
it
got
was
that
kind of-
role. I went out for that one.
I figured it was like a little toy. It's like pocket hose. You've got they just like these little dolls to play with.
Oh my! I thought they were just like little pocket prostitutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to collect them all. Get your pocket hose.
Like the homies, the little homie doll.
yes.
Yeah, you pull the thing on the back of it, and it goes, "Hey, try not to suck 36 dicks today."
Yeah. God, finally we finally hit our bizarre tangent for the episode at the very end.
We got there.
Yeah. Again, very on
Oh
brand.
man, we didn't have a 20-minute segue talking about something completely different. No, Nick, mate, thanks so much for joining us on this.
It was great having you, Nick.
Yeah,
Thank you for
absolutely.
finally
Yeah.
listening to our podcast. We've been telling you to do it for a year.
Well, no guarantee he's going to listen to it. He's here to record it.
Yeah.
I
Was
just
not
did.
good.
I just did. It was great. Great episode.
Congratulations for watching more than one movie in a week and for remembering it, Nick. This is the first time you've ever done this in the 10 years that we have known each other. So congratulations to you. And
Hey,
last of all,
He's
I
like,
did it
I'll
all-
never do it again.
I did it all for you guys, my buddies.
Appreciate it.
but finally as well, we just want to say, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, jump in the comments, have some fun with us, suggest other things that we can do. If you haven't subscribed to us, please do, or hit that notification bell. You'd be surprised how many people watch without subscribing. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify as well, just take a moment, jump off, give us a little bit of review, and come join us as well. You can find us on our Facebook page. We'd love to talk movies with you guys, and we always want to hear your suggestions for where we might be able to go at another time. But honestly, from me, from Ryan, from Will, and from Nick Calderone, we just want to say thanks for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast.